and welcome to our Circle and Salve Women. Today our topic of discussion is learning to understand what type of man you want in your life. There are 4 components that come to mind today that I'd like to discuss, and I'm going to really preface each one of them with a question so that you can pause and ask yourself, well, what type of man do I really have when we ask ourselves these questions one at a time. The first question I'd like to ask you is, do you have a man who is a boy or a man? And that may seem like a very silly question, but we all know that there are times where you go, oh, that's my boy, right? Or that's my man. And so when we say that's my boy versus that is my man, what are we really referencing? Just from my perspective, if I were to ever answer someone else and say, do you have a boy or do you have a man? I would, in all honesty, be thankful enough to say, I have a man. Some of you may be okay with saying, no, I'd rather say that my man is more like my boy, right? There, and so to speak, their person that is your friend, perhaps that's how you define it. I remember one time, an older lady had stated something about, oh, you better watch him or so. And I said, I didn't marry a boy, ma'am. I married a man. And so you have to think about that deeply and think, well, what were you trying to really send out as a message with that? She got it right away. Didn't have to explain, because in her wisdom, she knew what I meant. I don't have to babysit the person that I'm with. I shouldn't have to. And so you have to ask yourself that, when your friends are saying, you know what, you have a good man, they would never say to you, you have a good boy. However, the guy friends could say, that's my boy, because that's someone they like to hang out with, they like to do things with, and they know that they can pass time with. With me, when I have a man, we are being productive. We have a goal. We're going towards a direction that will have growth for us, our family, and our becoming together as one. And so for me, when I say that I married a man, I would think that in my mind, I would have to back that up every time I'm asking myself, is he acting responsible as a father? For those of you who have a father, as the father of your child in your home, or that you have been in a relationship with, is he acting like a good father so that I know I can actually rely on him when it comes to needs that my children have? Would he be able to support and be able to really provide for my children that we have brought together in this world? Now, if he was a boy, that means you would have to be supporting him and making sure that all of a sudden you're having to be the one who has to take care of an extra child in the home because he's not holding up his end. So think about it from that perspective. It doesn't mean that he can't be silly. It doesn't mean that he can't have a sense of humor. It's great to have that childishness in you so that you can just joke around and not feel so uptight all the time. But when we're speaking about a boy versus a man, they have let go. So, just like it says biblically, of their childish ways or their childish things, so that they know, okay, people are relying on me now. I've got a woman who is looking at me saying, okay, how are you going to support this family? How are you going to then lead this family into the direction that we need to go so that our children are feeling like they are being provided? And then even though there's going to be tough times, can you then continue to persevere? Are you tenacious enough so that when your back is against the wall, you're not going to fold, you're not going to cry, you're not going to go in a corner and then all of a sudden give up? So you could probably add more to that, but hopefully I've really made you understand the difference between have you married a boy versus have you married a man? Or are you with a boy? Or are you with a man? Or have you chosen a boy? Or have you chosen a man to be in your life? The next one that we have is, do you have a player? Or do you have a family man? I cannot say enough how happy it makes me, just quietly, just humbly, to hear when people say, oh, Gerald, you are such a family man. And for me at first, I would think to myself, wow, Okay, that's a different way of defining, in the early years of marriage, it's like, okay, what does that mean? I had to really think about that. And even my husband would be the first to go, oh, well, was that meant to, like, hit you the wrong way, or was that a good way? And then I come to realize that actually is a really great way of praising a man in your life, because that states to me that he knows he is putting his family first. Now, some of us, we may think to ourselves, but you know what? A player just has that strength about them. They have that masculinity about them. And it's just, something that for us is attractive. It doesn't mean a family man can't be attractive. In fact, as we get older, we realize that what we want is someone who would be able to coach for their children if there was no coach to be found in a sport. Right? It's someone who could take our children to school and maybe for a career day speak on their behalf, or just be there to help out. Take that support of a father within the family to make the children feel like, okay, I can look up to you and say, you know what? He is really leading this family into the direction of what I need as a father, or a father figure. And that family man is not going to be the one that's going to be out there going, okay, I'm going to go ahead and have, fun first and then come home. They're going to be prioritizing their family first and then have fun. And then that family man is really more of like, okay, I want to go watch a movie with my kids. I want to go play games with my kids. I want to just lay down and do nothing with my kids. That type of family man, rather than saying, I want to go hang out with my boys, comes right back to the first one, right? I want to go and do things with my boys. That means they haven't let go of that. And if you're okay with it, if you're one of those that you feel like, you know what, that's important for my man to be hanging out with his boys, then if you're feeling that that is a sense of balance that you have with your partner, then that's okay. It's your business. No one has to tell you otherwise. But again, know the difference between someone who is a player, who is not taking their family seriously and thinking of it as more temporary, or it is a convenience, or, and then here today and then maybe gone tomorrow and then moving on to something else. A player is just like, you're part of the team, but sometimes you're a bencher, or you're right there in the mid-court and doing your thing, practicing every day to get it right, because they know that everyone is relying on them to be that GOAT of the team, to be the one that brings in the points. So that type of player maybe in your mind is that family man in the household. So get that right, because the player that others may be thinking are just the kind of person that is not taking the family seriously. And that could be someone who then all of a sudden, you in the NBA has been benching, or has been one of the people in the audience, is one of the fanatics out there and cheering along as if they even made any of the points to make anything happen. And then they're only there for the stardom or when things are great, but when things are bad, then they're the first one to go. They're the first ones to actually say, this isn't working out, or this has to get better, or else I'm out of here. Those type of conditional situations where you feel like this person isn't always here when I need them. Understand the difference again between what you want as a family man. Again, doesn't mean they don't know how to, play right? Because they could be that game player and that game changer. And then you could be looking at this like, I am so glad that he is the person, the captain of our team, because man, we are inspiring other people. Or is he just the kind of player that just, wants to play, but doesn't really care about winning, or doesn't care about bringing their team into higher ground, or so to, greater recognition? Just that kind of person that says, I just kind of want to hang and just do whatever. Know your difference between a player and a family man. The next one is he a lover or is he a fighter? Now, here's the deal. One of the things that my papa would ask me, actually the only thing he ever asked me was, are you afraid of him? And he was referring to my husband. And my response was, he should be afraid of me, Papa, the way you raised me. And, my papa just responded back with silence, because whether or not he believed me, He asked me the question that I needed to hear, that I need to ask myself. The question wasn't for him to have, I realize now, wasn't for him to have comfort in asking, but really for me to submerge into my head and really think through and ask myself, am I in a situation where I feel like this man is protective of me, or that I must protect myself from him? And, in the years to come, I have been raised to be a person that's just pretty much very argumentative when I need to be, because if I feel like I am being put to a test or being challenged, my mouth is going to run, and it's going to object, and it's going to object to a point where I get the last say. And it doesn't make it right. I'm not sitting here saying that I'm proud of it, but what I love and what I'm grateful for is that I shouldn't feel that I at least don't feel that I can't. I remember my papa one time locked himself up in a bathroom because my mama was trying to actually question him with some things. And he just I don't know what it was, but there was this strong man who locked himself up in a bathroom because he feared really the fierceness of my mother, the urgency of her questioning and so forth, to a point where then when she told him he had to go outside, he sat outside. And this is the man of our house who, respected and honored my mother's wishes and did what she said. So think about the strength of your man. Just because they're a lover, that does not mean they have to be submissive. Again, we have to, ladies, identify the strength of a man. Doesn't mean that all of a sudden he has to, be very masculine and tell you what to do all the time, and you have to fear him and you have to subject to him. If you're subjecting to someone, it's because you trust them, that they would never hurt you, and that to a point where you feel as if you are not safe, your heart, your mind, your body, and your spirit, that you feel like you are growing. You should not be that seed that feels like you are drowning, or that you are drying up, that you are shriveling, and that you cannot grow. If that's the case, then you need to also pause and ask yourself, is he the cause of that? Or is it that is my perspective, my mentality, that's causing him to believe he is that way? Because you also have to bring up where you were brought up in from your background of, is this me causing the mindset, or is it truly the truth of where my surroundings have found me to be? And so asking yourself if someone, if your partner is a lover versus a fighter, is really more of, do I feel loved? Do I feel protected? Do I feel as if this is a sincere type of approach where, yes, he may not be perfect. No man is perfect. And if you're looking for a perfect man, I would like to think that you need to really think about that, because you're going to be putting yourself in a position all the time where you're always going to be conditional, always putting him to a bar where he will never be able to meet. Until you are perfect, then don't expect perfection. So again, ask yourself, is this person someone that I feel is someone I can feel comfortable with, cuddling with and telling jokes about, with whether it be just really trivial things that we're discussing and we're laughing about, is this a person that I feel like I can surround myself with around other people as well? And it doesn't mean, again, that they're soft, that they are weak, but there's this balance about this person that knows that true love, or that they are heading towards that they are trying to work toward it, and that you are teaching them and that you are showing them. Perhaps you have more love to show or to share or to teach only because you came more from that and there's more wisdom from you, but yet they are willing to listen. They are willing to learn from you, and that they want to be better because you make them better. Instead of someone who is a fighter that says, you know what, this is who I am, and if you do it my way, then this is going to be so much better. For all of us, you have to then ask yourself, well, what kind of background did they come from? And are they willing to actually change that? Because if you know it's wrong, and women, we have, we're very intuitive, and we know that doesn't even feel right. That's not feeling like it's coming out of love. Then that lover in them will listen. And it doesn't mean that it could be a day where all of a sudden they're going to want to turn around and do everything you ask them to do, because you don't want a yes man. You don't want someone who always tells you you're right. You're not going to grow either. Remember, you're that seed that also wants to grow, and you don't want to have a stagnant relationship where all of a sudden you feel like, wow, he's just going along with what I'm saying. There's some complacency there, but I'm not really sure if we're heading in the right direction or if we're growing in this relationship, because he's loving me, and yet I don't feel that he is also being a fighter for himself. There's that self-respect of asking, asking yourself, wait a minute, is it to a point now where he's just saying yes to everything because he doesn't want to fight with me? Have I bickered so much that just to kind of shut me up, right, or keep me quiet, he's just going to go ahead and agree with everything I say? So really understand that lover means that they are willing to change for you because of the love that they have for you, or the love they are learning to have for you, versus a fighter who makes you feel like you cannot be loved, you cannot be heard, you cannot be respected. Again, know the difference, because in every one of these that I speak, there's always that balance, but there's that neutrality where they're either going to be stronger on one end or the other. The fourth one that I have then, and the very last one, is that in this case, do you have someone who loves you more, or do you feel that you love them more? This was my biggest rule to my daughters. I would state to them that he has to love you more. And some of you would go, that's kind of vain, that's a little bit too conceited. And I have learned to understand that if you start to worship a man, that if you feel like you cannot live without them, that you need them in your life, and so that you love them so much you are willing to change everything about you, or willing to give up everything about you just to make them happy, just so that you feel like they accept you in you changing who you are, just so that they can say, okay, this will work. Then you have to ask yourself, how much self-worth are you giving up? How much of you have you let go? And so that is where I'm coming from when I say that the man has to love you more. Doesn't mean that they're worshiping you. Feels great when they do. I'm going to be honest, right? But you should also have in you the maturity to go, okay, hold on. I need to make sure that I am worthy of this man's love, so that if they are loving you to greatest heights, don't mess it up. Some of us want to take advantage of that. I know I have several times. And there are things that I see in my husband now where I feel like I have made him a lot more cautious of his heart, because of the changes that he had to adapt to based off of the times that I did take him for granted. And, when you have someone who is so kind, who's willing to do things for you because they love you, and then the next thing you know, you take advantage of that, and you realize that it gets to a point where you keep pulling and pulling and pulling from them, thinking this is okay, you're going to empty them out. And in one of my discussions and articles, right, we talk about emptiness. You don't want it where someone's coming with a 10, they're giving you everything. And because you are at a 4 or 5 and you come from a lifestyle where you feel like you just gotta hustle your way through life and taking from everybody until you feel filled, and you're never going to be filled because you come from that empty mindset. And what you're doing is you're stripping that person of their love for you to a point where then, yes, they do become more complacent, and then ultimately, even though they still love you more than you may love them, because there's no reciprocation there, after a while it becomes dull, and that relationship will then be a bit lopsided, in that they're going to do what you want them to do because they love you, and yet you don't feel that fight in them. You don't feel that electrifying fire in them where they're willing to help you change for the better, that they're there to make you stronger in your mind, your heart, your body, and your spirit. There's no challenge there because they love you that much, that they're willing to just make you believe you are always right, that you are always the one to be in charge. And then all of a sudden you feel like this man has no spine. And then you're looking at him and saying, wow, okay, I wish you would speak up for yourself more. I wish you would do things more, to make me happy. I mean, it's always going to be this conditional piece. But again, ask yourself, if he loves you more than you love him, that's a beautiful thing. Does he love you more than you love him? Does he love you more than you love him? That is a beautiful thing. But if you love him more than he loves you, just ask yourself that, because the truth will come out. Then at the same time, could you get it to a point where then you will balance? You will balance, because every one of these has to have some kind of neutrality, where there are days where you feel like, you know what, I am loving him more right now than he is loving me. And then there are days where you're going to feel like he is loving me more right now than I am loving him. And then there are going to be days where you feel like we love each other very much, and we really feel that we are reciprocating that type of love that we need for each other to grow and be better and feel better about ourselves. You have to ask yourself that. So let me take you back with all four of these. Okay, the first question you need to ask yourself, and be true to your heart, be true to your spirit, and just be real with it, and don't fight against it, so that you will learn to work with every one of these to then strive for what you want in your relationship. So again, with each and every one of these, you got to make that choice of which one do you like better. And then be real with it, and don't complain that's what you have, because that's what you asked for and that's what you're working toward. Always work toward what you want and what you desire, what you need, versus all of a sudden you got it and then you don't want it. So first one is, do you have a boy or do you have a man? And if you like that he's childish, if you like that he hangs out with his homies so that you can be at home with the children, and that's okay for you, and that you are proud of the fact that he still has his homies and he still has all the people that he can hang out with and not be with you, and then so that way you can hang out with your girlfriends and you have that kind of relationship, own it. Own it, but don't complain about it if all of a sudden you're not comfortable with it, because maybe a few months ago or a few years ago you're comfortable with it. Now you need him to be a man, and then now you are lacking it because you didn't set those expectations for him to meet the very first time that you guys started together in your relationship. So again, being that man would then be at home, making sure that he prioritizes his family first, or his relationship first, rather than anything else. Goes to the second one. Do you have a player or do you have a family man? Because if you have a player, and some of us, again, could be very proud of the fact that we have this person who is just, some people would say just running the streets, right? And then yet you're just like, is this something that I am proud of? That, he's out there, maybe he is taking care of the kids, right? He is taking care of your children or the children that he has, blessed you with, and he's doing his part. But as a family man altogether, there's really no unity there, because he's all over the place. He's over here taking care of that family that he set up, another over here that he's taking care of that he set up. And there's really no unified oneness about him, because he's out there playing every team, creating every team. That doesn't mean that a family man doesn't know how to be essentially how to play the game right. Okay. A family man, again, could be that goat, of the team, where they know we're about winning. We're about striving for the best. We're about making sure that we get ourselves to the championship round, and win that trophy. We're going to keep going for that. So again, know what you want. Know the difference with, is he a player or is he a family man? And then know, if you want one or the other, what components of each of that is it that you are looking for and that you're willing to accept? The next one that you have to ask yourself is he a lover or is he a fighter? Now, again, we don't want to say, oh, my man is weak, right? Because he doesn't know how to fight for me. A lover could be someone that knows how to fight when. They know how to pick their battles, but they love hard. And yet they also know when to back down and say, this isn't even worth fighting about. They know how to find peace when peace is needed. They know how to then go for the win or win the battle when a war exists or comes through that challenges their family or those they love. So they know how to battle. That again may seem like, the irony of a lover, but a lover loves hard. And they know how to put those they love within their circle first. And so in that case, if you have a fighter, however, you may have a person who's like battling all the time, telling everybody, what they need to do to make them happy, and yet doesn't really fight for the team. And so a lover or a fighter, again, could be that neutrality. You have to ask yourself, if I have a lover for a man, what type of lover is he? Is he one where I'm happy with, where he's not a fighter? I don't want someone who always wants to cause a fight. I just want someone who's peaceful and doesn't like any type of trouble at all. That to you is your lover, beautiful. If you have a fighter that knows how to fight for what they want, to what extent then is that type of fighter is it that you want in your life? Is it a fighter where you're always going to feel protected as well? Or that you're feeling threatened around that person because given the fact that they are a fighter, they're fighting everybody, including you, including their children, including everyone, and being destructive about what could be a beautiful thing. So again, you have to understand that neutrality. If you have a lover, what is it in the lover that you're looking for? If you have a fighter, what is it in that fighter that you're looking for? Because you have to ask, by definition, what is it that makes them a lover and what is it that makes them a fighter? And if you like that person right in the middle and you're like, I'm good when he's a lover because he's peaceful when he needs to be, and then when he's a fighter because he can fight when he needs to be, as long as I'm feeling safe, as long as I'm not feeling like I'm in fear or that my children are in fear and that we feel like this circle is protected, I'm good with that. Again, that neutrality. And then the last but not least is, in this case, does he love you more or do you love him more? Again, I cannot emphasize enough the neutrality of this. You have to ask yourself, if indeed he does love me more, at what point does that then become unhealthy? To a point where I'm not growing because he's just agreeing with everything that I am saying, everything that I want to do, he's saying yes to. Is that helping me to grow? Is that giving me the feeling that I have some self-respect and I can honor myself because he is allowing me to do whatever? Versus someone where I feel like I love him more because I want to please him. I want to make him happy. I want to make sure that if I do everything right, then everything will be right for him. And if everything is right for him, then it's going to be right for us. Again, emphasizing that neutrality. Ask yourself, to a scale, which side of each of these are you really falling yourself in when you're asking each of these components and these questions of what kind of man you have. Do you have a boy? Do you have a man? Think about that, okay? And then also, do you have a player or do you have a family man? Think about that. Do you have a fighter or do you have a lover? Think about this. And then lastly, does he love you more or do you love him more? If you are one that you feel like, okay, sometimes it's a tit for tat and you find that neutrality, then that could be right there something where you feel like I can work with. If you are just one of those that go, this is me right here. I know I should be asking for this, but I really, really am wanting this. Got to be real with that. Own it. And then stick with it and then don't complain about it. And if you are over here and you've chosen that rather than this, again, own it. Stick with it and don't complain about it, because you are responsible for knowing what you want, what you're working toward, what you're willing to accept, what you're willing to tolerate, and then what you're willing to say, no, this is not going to work for me. This is not going to work for us. We have got to find a place of a balance, So having said that, hopefully I just let this roll, and I just had to adjust my pillow one time. But if this is something that, hopefully you're allowing yourself to really think through, that makes me happy, because all of us, we're growing, we are embracing ourselves, but we're also taking in the responsibility of knowing that we actually have to take it upon ourselves to go, okay, is this really an issue because I'm creating it in my mind? Or is this not an issue at all? And if it is an issue, what am I doing about it? How am I being proactive? What's my action plan so that it's not the same thing over and over? If I'm working for betterment, what am I doing for that so that I am striving for it? That there is a forward movement, rather than complaining about it all the time and then being dramatic about it, where then it just oozes out in a negative and dark way. Always be in the light, always be in love, always push for it, and then keep working toward it. Give yourself permission to say, I didn't do that too well, but then give yourself again that mindset to go, I'll do that again tomorrow. I'll keep trying, because every day is that gift to be able to try it again. Have a great day, everybody. In the words of my mother, God bless us all. Keep loving you. We'll see you next time.